Hey guys, welcome to your second homework assignment on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed the first one and I'm excited for this one also. Let's go on and get started and look at this problem. Take your finger and read it with me. A farmer had 507 goats in a barn. She moves 236 of the goats to the field. How many goats are left in the barn? So what we're going to do, we're going to annotate the problem. We're going to underline our question. And our question is asking us to know how many goats are left in the barn. So that tells us a part of the goats left, but part are still in the barn. And so we need to find the information in this problem that helps us to determine how many were left in the barn. What number tells us how many goats started off in the barn? I'm thinking that it's 507 because it says a farmer had 507 goats in the barn. So it seems to me like that's what they started out with in the barn. Then the farmer moved 236 of them to a field. So 236 of the goats left the barn and went to the field. And so if I take the goats I started out with and I subtract the goats that left the barn, I should have the number of goats that are left, If I subtract the number of goats that went to the field, I should have the number of goats that are left in the barn. So this is my whole. This is the number of goats I started out with. Part of the goats left the barn, and then the other part is left. So to fill out my bar model, I know my whole is going to be the number down here that represents the length of the whole bar. So I'm going to do 507. Now, I know that part of the goats left the barn, and part of the goats are still in the barn. And the part that I know are the goats that left the barn. So these are the ones that went to the field, so I'm going to put this part here. And this is the part that I'm going to have to figure out. So what I see here is that I have a part and a whole. And I know when I have a whole, when I start with a whole and I take away a part, I find the other part. So I'm going to have to subtract. So to subtract, I'm going to start with my whole on top. And I'm going to subtract the part that I know. And this one is 236. So I'm going to do 7 minus 6. The bigger number here is on top. So I can do 7 minus 6. I know that 7 minus 6 is 1. Now here I have 0 minus 3. And a lot of us sometimes think that since that's a 0, we can just put 3 here. That 0 minus 3 is 3. But when you think about it, if you start off with 0 of something, can you take any away? You can't. So we're going to have to come over here and borrow 100. So when I take 100 and move it to the tens place, I had 500s, now I'm going to have 4. I'm going to break that 100 into 10 tens and add them here. I started out with 0 tens, so when I add 10 tens, I'm going to have 10. So 10, now can I do 10 minus 3? What's 10 minus 3? It's 7. And then I'm going to do 4 minus 2, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So let's see if this answers my question. 271. How many goats were left in the barn? 271. Is that reasonable? If we started out with 507 goats and 236 left, is it reasonable to think that 270 would remain in the barn? And I think it's pretty reasonable. So we'll go on and fill in our answer. The farmer has 271 goats left in the barn. All right, so let's just think about this problem. On this problem, we don't actually have to solve it. I just want you to think about it. A farmer had 137 goats in a barn. She moved 287 more goats to the barn. How many goats are in the barn now? So if we have this question, how many goats are in the barn now? So we want to know how many are in the barn. Let's see what information the problem gives us. It says the farmer had 135 goats in the barn, and she moved 287 more goats to the barn. So part of the goats were already in the barn, and then part of the goats moved in later, and we want to know how many goats were in there all together after the farmer moved some. So what we're looking for is our whole. So if the problem gives us a part and a part, and we have to find a whole, what operation do we do? In that case, we're going to add. So we don't have to solve that one, but I just want you to think about the differences between these two problems. Here, we get a whole and a part, so we have to subtract. We start out with the whole. Here, the problem gives us the two parts, and we have to put them together and add. Good job. Okay, now, I can't find my pause sign. Here it is. Oh, there's a Post-it note on it. I want you to go on and pause your video now and flip over to do the problems on the back on your own, and then when you're finished, you can hit play again and we'll check them together. Alright, I hope you got your work done independently, and so let's look at it now and check it. The farmer had 546 chickens in the chicken coop. Of those chickens, 356 of them left the chicken coop and went to the field. How many chickens were left in the chicken coop? So here's my question that I have to answer. I want to know how many chickens remained in the chicken coop after some of them went to the field. And so to know that, I have to know how many started out in the chicken coop and then how many left the chicken coop. And when I look at the problem, I have that information. I see that there were 546 chickens in the chicken coop, and 356 of them left the coop for the field. And so I know that if the farmer started out with 546 chickens in the chicken coop, that means that is my whole. That's the whole number of chickens he started out with. And then we see that part of them left. Part of them went to the field. So if I want to put this in my bar model, I know that 546 is my whole. That's all the chickens that we're dealing with. And then part of them left the coop. So that part is 356. So I need to take away this 356 to figure out how many chickens are left. And that will help me to figure out how many chickens are left. So I have to take my whole and subtract my part, the chickens that left. And my answer will be the chickens that are still there. So let's go to our solve box. And we're going to start with our whole and subtract the part that we know. And then we should be left with the part that we're trying to figure out, which should answer our question. Can I do 6 minus 6? Yes, that's 0. 4 minus 5. I can't do that because my bigger number is on the bottom. 5 is greater than 4. So I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to come over here and take 100. If I have 500s and I take 1, I have 4 left. I can't just take that 100 away. I have to regroup it into 10 tens. So I have 4 tens now, and when I add my 10 tens, I'm going to have 14. Now, can I do 14 minus 5? Yes, that's 9. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So I subtracted to solve that. And my answer is 190. So let's write it in and go back to our question. How many chickens are left in the chicken coop? There are 190 chickens left in the coop. So that answers my question. I'm going to sit down again so I don't. All right. This is my favorite problem because I love pigs. Let's look at this one. In Miss Major's dreams, she has a farm with 125 pigs. This spring, 387 more pigs are born. How many pigs are on Miss Major's farm now? So we want to know how many pigs are on my farm now. So now means I had some and then something happened and I got some more. So let's look at the problem. I had a farm with 125 pigs. Is that a part or a whole? Well, when I look at it, I know that in my problem I get more pigs. So this is just part of the pigs that I have. Then in the spring, I got the other part of the pigs. I got 387 more pigs. And my question is asking how many pigs are on my farm now. So what I'm looking for is the whole. I'm looking for that total number of pigs that I have. So my whole here is what I don't have. I have the part of the pigs that I already had, 125, And then I have the part that were born in the spring, which was 387. So this is the part I had. This is the part that was born in the spring. And now I have to figure out how many I have all together. So if I have a part and a part, and I need to find a whole, we do part, part, whole, which is addition. So when I add, it doesn't matter what order, 125 plus 387. 5 plus 7 is 13. No, that's wrong. I'm sure you guys caught that before I did. 5 plus 7 is 12. I'm going to put my 2 in the ones place, and I'm going to regroup my 1. I see here, I'm going to add these two first because I see that those make a 10. 8 and 2 make 10, and 1 more is 11. So I'm going to put my 1 in the tens place and regroup a 1 to the hundreds place. And this one I'm just going to add down. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5. So let's fill that in. Miss Majors has 512 pigs on her farm now. And I'm going to ask myself if that's reasonable. I started off with 125, and 387 more came later. So I know my answer is going to be greater than both of these numbers because I had to put these numbers together. So this answer seems reasonable to me. I hope that you guys got those, and if you didn't, go back and look at them and see what mistakes you made, and we can talk about it in class, or next time just think about that when you're solving the problem and see if you can get it right next time. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.